Together, we shall face the future.
Duet Night Abyss is arguably one of the most anticipated gacha games in the world right now. It was first announced back in October 2023, and since their reveal, they've released 2 different trailers and a technical test, which both Mrs. Stix and I got to play, thanks to the devs reaching out to and providing both me and my wife with access. Their first trailer, Until the Dawn, is sitting at 1.5 million views as of recording this video. This was uploaded 9 months ago. Their technical test trailer, Kaleidoscopic Glances at Atlasia, is sitting at 1.8 million views. For comparison, Project Mugen has 2 different video trailers at 730,000 and 440,000 views. Neverness to Everness has 2 video trailers at 650,000 and 400,000 views. Arknight's Enfield's trailers have 730,000, 780,000, 1.1 million, and 595,000 views respectively. As anticipated as Duet Night Abyss is, they've remained relatively silent since their technical test. When it comes to real information anyway. I played dozens of hours of the test phase and I finished it entirely. I did every game mode. I acquired every single character. I completed all of the story and all of the scenarios that were available. And while I did have a lot of fun, it definitely needed some work. Not due to the game being bad, not due to the game being clunky. Rather, they only had 2 different zones implemented, which equated to roughly, I don't know, 10, maybe 20 hours worth of total gameplay. So, what is going on with Duet Night Abyss? Is it canceled? Has the game been delayed? Do we have a release date or even a date for a follow-up test phase? That is what we're here today to try and find out. With this in mind, let's start this off by looking at their website. They've made 4 different posts in 2024. On the 15th of March, they opened recruitment for the technical test. On the 26th, they confirmed distribution of test keys had ended. And finally, on the 27th, they released an official trailer for it. That is everything available via their website, which paints a pretty depressing picture, honestly. Navigating on over to their Discord channel, you'll see, at the very least, they're marginally more communicative there, but no official announcements have been made since their confirmation of the technical test. This led me over to their website, herogame.com, where they have honestly had no updates made since June 2023, over a year now. They also both develop and publish several games around Asia. Even with that in mind, they are, or at the very least seem to be, dedicated to bringing their games to a global audience. We're well aware that Duet Night Abyss is targeting a global release after all. Their Facebook page seems to echo what is available via their Twitter page. Investigating the description of their latest video leaves us with no additional information at all outside of a pre-registration link, which is probably the closest gauge we're going to really get to any real date typically. And this isn't to say that this is the case here, but pre-registration is often enabled after enough progress has been made in a game. Before we delve any deeper into Duet Night Abyss, allow me to thank my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members. Your guys' support is why I can continue to make videos like this every single month, and I deeply appreciate y'all being there for me. From what I played of Duet Night Abyss, it was an immense amount of fun. A lot of people made comparisons to Warframe, and I saw them. I'm not even that well versed in Warframe, and I could see the similarities present. I do think at the end of the day, this is going to be a very different kind of game that many people are expecting it to be. People are, at the very least from what I've seen, hoping that it is a competitor to Wuthering Waves, to Genshin Impact, but from what I played, the world is completely different. It's not 100% open, it's more like Honkai Star Rail, and so that the zones are segregated, but it's also much larger than Honkai Star Rail. You can traverse both a X and a Y axis, which means that you can scale high buildings, mountains, scenery, terrain, but you can go into caves, into dungeons. It seems to feature a lot of what an open world would typically feature, while featuring zones that are smaller in scale, but also at the same time cut off from the rest of the world. This is no doubt going to aid significantly in performance because you have to load much smaller areas. The combat was, for a technical test even, some of the best that I've seen. It wasn't as good as Wuwa, but it was definitely better than Tower Fantasy and a lot of other action gacha games that I've played. Not only did they have what is arguably the best third-person shooter combat, much better than Snowbreaks is, but they also had very fluid feeling animations and very fluid feeling just general action combat. The animations themselves did feel a little clunky at times during certain interactions, but this is a technical test, which means we're still a ways off of being, or at the very least, it was a ways off of being finalized. A lot of changes are likely to be made before the game officially launches. I thought the story was fine, wasn't anything great. At the same time, we were only given access to a small amount of the story, maybe like 30 minutes total. The characters had personality. The characters had personality. Exploration was a lot of fun. Graphically, the game looks very good. It doesn't look as good as something like Wuthering Waves or Azure Premilia looks, but that's because I personally feel as though Azure Premilia is very close to release, whereas I think Duet Night Abyss is considerably further away. Which brings me back to the topic of the video. We know very little in terms of the release date, and my contacts in the studio unfortunately didn't want to disclose any concrete information, and I totally get this. I understand this is likely to avoid any potential disappointment if they're required to delay future tests or the release date itself. We do know, however, that they are still very hard at work. The lack of communication, at least pertaining to development updates, is unfortunate, but at the same time, it is also entirely expected, and I'm not going to criticize them for that. They are, after all, fairly communicative on Discord and on Twitter, social media, from what we've seen. It's not like they've gone silent like Project Mugen. However, given that we have already had a test phase, pre-registrations are open and available, and the studio isn't silent, it's a safe bet to assume the game probably isn't too far off. Much like Arknight's Enfield and Azure Premilia. I genuinely would have loved to have given you guys more information, but at the end of the day, I'm just here to let you know that they haven't given up. They haven't disappeared. They haven't stopped communicating with people. They're still very hard at work. The game is still coming. I know a lot of people are constantly asking when it's going to be available, when they can play, and that is what this video is for. It's not necessarily to update people on when it's coming. It's just to update people on the fact that it is still coming and we don't actually know when it's going to release yet. Again, Duet Night Abyss is very much still coming. Definitely not in 2024, perhaps in 2025, but by no means any later than 2026. So, you know, at the end of the day, we can take solace in that at least. Now, if Duet Night Abyss is not a gacha that you're at all interested in, though, absolutely no problem. I got you covered with 2 videos on screen right now that might be more up your alley.